And now, our feature presentation.
To infinity and beyond!
My name's Bond. James Bond.
That'll do, pig.
Bad boys. What you gonna do?
Show you with the box. Who's in the box?
Ew! Get off of me! Ugh,
A lot of people go to college for 7 years.
I know. They're called doctors.
Houston, we have a problem.
Hey, welcome in to 52/1995, your live movie conversation podcast, where we dive deep into the movies of 1995. I'm your host, Cody, as always, and I'm thrilled to be joined this week by my fantastic co-host, Ryan. Ryan, welcome in.
Hello.
For those tuning in for the very first time, we're so glad that you are here. Every week, 52 of those to be exact, we explore a different film from the year 1995, whether it is a classic hit or a movie about Richard Nixon. We dive into this year's important releases, we discuss them in detail, and then chat with my guest about their thoughts and experiences with the movie, and then maybe get to see what they've actually been watching, like for fun on the side. So hopefully they get a little bit of that. Our current theme, we usually do themed months here. And our current theme is taken from the show New Girl. It is a line spoken by the Schmidt character. And it is, let me go ahead and see if I can get this done today. Where I do this, here we go.
A white man? No!
That's it. That's everything. That is everything. So our theme this week is A White Man, No, where we're talking about movies that just happen to be all about white men. And boy, do we have a good one here today. Today's movie of choice is called Nixon, about our president, former president, Richard Nixon. Before we jump into this movie, Ryan, thank you again for joining us. Had you seen this film before?
I didn't know. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for rescheduling.
Yeah,
absolutely. We pushed through on this. I didn't know this movie existed, and so I was fascinated that Oliver Stone made a Nixon movie that in the middle of my life that I never even heard about. Now I kind of get it, but yeah, I was like, whoa! I figured I would have come across this at some point with my crossover interest of American history and movies. I thought I would have known about it, but no, never seen it. Didn't know it happened.
This the only thing I know about this movie, or knew about this movie growing up, was that my parents rented it one time from from whatever movie place they rented movies from. They rented it, and then they got to their first cocksucker, and they said, "Nope, we're not watching this movie anymore."
Yeah.
So that's my only experience with this movie, is that my parents rented it and would not watch it.
Well, that's funny because it does go back to, and it might still happen on some streaming services or whatever, but definitely back in the day when you would like peruse a Blockbuster aisle and you would just see Anthony Hopkins as Nixon, and maybe you'd see Oliver Stone's name, but you may not know, if you're just like, in some Ohio parents, like who Oliver Stone is or what you're getting into. And you're like, okay, a movie about Nixon. We remember him.
Yeah.
You take it home, and then, yeah, it's an Oliver Stone movie.
It is definitely an Oliver Stone movie. And I wonder if my parents were like, thinking this is going to be some, I mean, I don't know how my parents felt about Richard Nixon, to be honest with you, but I do know that they, respect presidents, is what they say.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. But that comes from that like boomer generation of just being like, he's your president, you got to respect him. So they were probably thinking that this would be a different movie than it was. Obviously, they were maybe expecting like a Forrest Gump type thing, where it was just like, hey, remember the 60s?
Yeah, because I feel like maybe a lot of boomers got pulled into this movie accidentally, just like maybe JFK a little bit, but they were like, I remember that. I'd love to, massage my ego by like hearing about things I remember growing up.
Yeah.
That's that whole generation of movies. And in the 90s, we've talked about before. A lot of that going on with this. And I've got JFK actually playing in the background. And JFK is a movie that, one, is not really about the president JFK. It's more about his assassination conspiracy around the assassination. But I love JFK. I actually think that movie is incredible. I really need to rewatch it. It is the it is like the Oliver Stone movie in a lot of ways. Obviously, there's Platoon and other. He's done a lot of things, but
yeah.
When people think of him making a 3-hour political conspiracy movie from a left of center leaning like bias or whatever, I mean, like that's what they think of when they think of Oliver Stone, and JFK is the one that critics and audiences can get behind. And JFK was further in the past, so like everybody loves to play with conspiracy theories about his assassination. Whereas in 1995, there were still probably politically conservative people who didn't had a lot more feelings about the Vietnam era and Richard Nixon. Yeah.
And Nixon, and another thing is JFK was dead, and Nixon had just passed away. I think he passed away in 1984. So that's another thing. It's like the nearness of the events. Like Nixon was still living his life at the time that this movie was being made, and there's a lot more, I would say, controversy. Not necessarily controversy, but like the family wasn't too happy that Oliver Stone was making this movie.
Yeah.
Whereas who cares? The Kennedys are the Kennedys. They're just doing whatever.
Right. Like my dad was a little kid when Kennedy was shot. But my dad was in high school when Nixon was president.
Exactly.
Starting to develop more political opinions and identities of where you fit into culture and stuff like that. Lots of things to have feelings about. And so yeah, that probably made this a little less safe of a topic than JFK.
One thing I was interested though, whenever we haven't really got into this movie too much, but like I expected this script or screenplay to be based on like a book or some like biography or anything.
No, they did a lot of independent research and like lots of different documents, and that may contribute to a lot of messiness in the movie.
Yeah,
we'll get into it. It is a messy movie, and I think it could be a lot better if it was scripted tighter.
Sometimes I think Oliver Stone's just like, yeah, that's what happened. I'm Oliver Stone, and this is what I'm gonna write about, and this is the truth. You see that a lot in JFK. He just kind of takes his interviews and everything. He's like, yep, that's true.
No, he's gonna stitch everything together. It's like a kind of lazy, but if you're obsessed with your own project, you don't want to throw away any ideas, but you need to throw away a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so he's like, well, we'll fit that in there. We'll fit that in there. We'll fit in everything we wrote down, everything I found interesting, everything I like doing. We're going to put it all in there somewhere. And then before you know it, you've like lost the thread, and it's really hard to keep up with. We'll talk about it. What even Oliver Stone thinks about Richard Nixon is confusing from this movie.
It's so confusing. I'm so glad that you said that.
Yeah.
But I keep going back to JFK. What works about it in JFK is it works because it's a conspiracy theory. So you're not, it's about conspiracy. So not throwing away those ideas and just throwing everything out on the screen works for that movie.
Yeah.
I think that movie is like a 5-star movie in my opinion. I love JFK.
Yeah.
But like in a movie like this, where you're just trying to be super factual about and like almost present this as biography, it doesn't necessarily
this
work.
Movie's about Richard Nixon being the villain that he historically was, and it spends like an hour and a half of the movie humanizing the hell out of him.
It was so weird. I was like, I do not know what to think about Richard
and nobody
Nixon.
else. Oliver Stone is not spending time in this movie humanizing the Kent State protesters or the Vietnam GIs or the Cambodian bombing victims. Like all the people he was attacked, even Nixon's staff are like robots. The only person who was a human with feelings in this movie is Richard Nixon, but he's the horrible person, so it's very confusing.
Yeah. Well, let's start talking about it and get some of the stats of this movie out of the way, and then we can break.
Well, it's going to take 20 minutes just to go through the cast. So
yeah, I only took like the ones I thought were very important to the cast. So yeah, there's some, and if we were to do JFK, that cast is insane too. So everybody contributes. So this movie is called Nixon. It came out December 20th, 1995, directed by Oliver Stone. It is written by Stephen J. Revell, Christopher Wilkinson, and Oliver Stone himself. The cast, which is a huge cast and a lot of famous people peppered throughout this. I do not go through all of them. If you want to look them up, you can. But we've got Anthony Hopkins as Richard Nixon, Jonah Allen as Pat Nixon, James Woods as H.R. Haldeman, the chief of staff, J.T. Walsh as John Ehrlichman, he's the domestic affairs advisor, Paul Sorvino as Henry Kissinger, Powers Booth as General Alexander Haig, David Paymer as Ron Ziegler, he's the press secretary, David Hyde Pierce as John Dean, the White House counsel, Mary Steenburgen in here as Hannah Milhouse Nixon, Nixon's mother.
We'll get there really quick. His middle name is Milhouse because his mom's middle name is Milhouse.
I think that's her
Oh,
maiden name.
that's her maiden name that she
Yeah.
took as her middle name and then was Pat. That makes so much sense. That didn't occur to me. I was like, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Ed Harris is in this movie as E. Howard Hunt, and then Bob Hoskins is in this movie as J. Edgar Hoover. So that's a lot of names, and I didn't even touch half the people that are on this in this
There's
movie.
a few more that I'd mention.
Go ahead.
Because Madeline Kahn's not in it very much, but she plays a very cool character in the
Love
Watergate
Matt.
hero, and she kills it as Margaret Mitchell.
I wish she was in it more.
Martha
There's
Mitchell.
so much more about Martha Mitchell that we don't get. I'm
It's
like,
a 3-hour movie. Like the Martha Mitchell story is crazy when you get into it, and she's a fascinating person. Rory's grandfather is Nelson Rockefeller. I do love that, but also Bai Ling is in this movie.
Oh yes, she is. She's the interpreter for Mao Zedong or whatever.
Yeah, and I was like, I didn't know that you came out of the Chinese robot factory until like the year 2000, but you were acting in 1995.
It is crazy. Anybody else that we might have missed?
Sam Waterston's in there, but he doesn't do much. Actually,
no, he's not in this version or my version.
Actually, that's in the trivia section. We'll get to that.
Yeah. I was about to say I kept looking for him because I was like, oh, Sam Waterston's in this. I like Sam Waterston. Nope. Didn't get him at all. All right, this movie synopsis, it says this film is a biographical examination of former U.S. President Richard Nixon. The non-chronological narrative explores Nixon's personal and professional life, touching on his youth, his college years, and political triumphs and failures. Nixon is seen as a child born to austere Quaker parents, as a young attorney wooing his future wife, Pat, and as an astute but dour politician. After finally becoming president, Nixon is embroiled in the infamous Watergate scandal. There's so much more in this movie that you can't even touch on. Surprisingly, this budget was only $11 million, and box office. Yeah, and the box office, especially with all the names that they got in this movie.
Yeah, mostly for the names. A lot of it's shot very small and cheap. I can see that it's shot cheap, and then they use a lot of like archival footage to like make it feel bigger, you know.
Yes.
And which is a smart way to do a budget. But the cast alone should have been like 11 million.
Yeah, box office return, very modest return, 83 million. I mean, it 8 times its budget. That's pretty good. Surprising for a 3-hour biopic. To get this. Critics liked it fairly well. It has a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb has it at a solid 7. Letterboxd has it at a 3.6. So not too shabby there. Roger Ebert loved this movie. He gave it 4 out of 4 stars. He said Nixon would be a great film even if there had been no Richard Nixon. In its control of mood and personality, in the way when the president musters moments of brilliance, even as the circle closes, in the way it shows advisors huddled terrified in the corridors of power, it takes on the resonance of classic tragedy. Tragedy requires the fall of a hero, and one of the achievements of Nixon is to show that greatness was within his reach.
That is incorrect.
Sometimes Raj doesn't get it.
I mean, I think he's failing to take apart what he knows and feels about Richard Nixon. The idea that this would be crazy if you didn't know if this was like a fictional world, that this would be great. I think that's wild, because I think as a person who isn't an expert or doesn't know everything, but knows a lot about all the topics, knows a little bit about all of the topics involved, I struggled to figure out what they were talking about and where they were in time and what they were saying and what they were doing. On my second watch, when I was finally making the scene list in a row, I could start to like connect. Oh, all right, this is happening now. This is happening now. That's happening. But just my initial like taking it all in watch, it felt like a confused, distracted mess of a plot. And important things happening. It felt like the whole movie, important things are happening in the background, and I know what the movie means because I know about the things in the background, but the movie's not explaining them to me at all. So if I don't know about what's going on in the background, if you're Gen Z or even a lot of millennials and you don't know anything about like recent American history, none of this makes any sense.
I get that. I'm a history guy too, and there were still some things in here that I was like, didn't know. And I still don't like know what was going on at the time with so much of this movie, but you that makes complete sense. Like, yeah.
So the idea, so when Roger Ebert says like, even if Nixon didn't exist, this would be a great movie. I'm like, if Nixon didn't exist, we wouldn't know what this movie's about.
It almost works like, or what I think is Oliver Stone's trying to do is present Nixon as a like Shakespearean tragic figure, like a king, like King
I do
Lear
agree with that.
or
It does
Macbeth.
play like
Like
a Greek
that is
tragedy.
what he's trying to do, and that's a
And I'm
more
sure we'll talk about it
interesting
more,
movie.
but I have a problem with that. Like I don't, especially if an overlong movie, I'm like, why do I don't care that his dad was a grocer. Stop talking about it.
Yeah.
You know, I care that he like bombed like 3 countries into oblivion. Like that's the whole point. Like, I don't care that he had a good dad and like a weird Puritan mom, but like why should I care? Like what is that? And I think that all of that's supposed to Oliver Stone ends up, like we said, it's like confused about what Oliver Stone feels about Nixon because he wants to create in a way that doesn't happen in JFK. He wants to create this character that is so complex or has these tragic hubris flaws, like a
Mhm.
Greek hero, a tragic hero that like creates the Richard. He wants to like excuse Richard Nixon because of who he is in such a special, unique way. And I
Yeah.
don't. I just want to see all the dirt that he did.
But his but his
Hate him for it.
brothers died of tuberculosis.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
There's
cool.
a lot of Laotian brothers who died of napalm because of him. But the movie doesn't take any time to talk about that. You know.
Man, Mick LaSalle gave this from the San Francisco Gay. He gave this 1 out of 4 stars. He said Nixon doesn't work as a drama, but with a little push, it might have been a great comedy. And
That's
I
funny.
like that review
Yeah.
because there were several times where I was like, "This is funny as fuck." Like, this is
Yeah.
a funny movie.
I like there was a line from the Rotten Tomatoes that said, much like its subject's time in office, Nixon might have ended sooner.
That's good. This movie, regardless of what we're saying about it, was nominated for 4 Academy Awards, including Best Actor for what's his face, Anthony Hopkins, Best Supporting Actress for Joan Allen, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Original Score. Did not win any
That's
of
not surprising.
those.
This is a mid-90s Oscar bait movie. And I mean, Anthony Hopkins could do no wrong, and Oliver Stone was coming off a lot of wins.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't win any of those awards, right? Like,
No.
yeah. So the fact that they were nominated, though, that's not surprising.
I want to say this is like a weak Best Actor year.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I feel like
Well, we got Tom Hanks again.
yes. No, we don't have Tom Hanks this
That
year.
was last year. Okay.
That was that was last year because I said he should have been nominated for Apollo 13. But
Hmm.
Richard Dreyfuss for Mr. Holland's Opus and Nixon and gosh, maybe Mel Gibson for Braveheart. That seems weird.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It makes sense, but it seems weird. He's not that good. But no wins for them. So
I don't
that's
have
it.
anything to reference, but I did read in the reviews that like a lot of the criticism was about Anthony Hopkins' performance, which I don't think is perfect, but is one of the things that keeps me in the movie.
I agree, and I also agree with them too. Like, I
Yeah.
do not like this performance, but if it's not Anthony Hopkins, like,
I don't know what you're looking for, right?
yeah, like I almost prefer Dan Hedaya, who's in this movie, who ends up playing Richard Nixon in a comedy movie later in the 90s.
Yeah, or if we could have had Frank Langella from Frost Nixon this
Yeah.
whole movie, that might be good. Yeah,
I was really
I feel
racking
like
my
Hopkins
brain.
is doing his best. I don't know I don't know. I can't pinpoint what's less than perfect about his performance that I can't just blame on the script or the directing. But I don't know. It's weird to think of Anthony Hopkins playing Nixon, but he gets the physicality, he gets the facial expressions, and he gets the voice pretty okay. But maybe that's just not enough.
Yeah, and I think that we're used to a Nixon almost like caricature.
Yes, that's true.
Avoid that, like the jowls moving and everything. And you don't get that with Anthony Hopkins is a great actor. He's not going to play into that. So,
And we see so much of Nixon's vulnerability and paranoia, which is true about his character, that we don't get enough in this movie of Nixon just kind of being a loud, boisterous, like, I don't know what the right word is, but
Republican.
yeah. I'm just struggling to say he had some BDE in real life that he wasn't scared and he fought fights, and they talk about that a lot in this movie, but you don't see him fighting fights as much as you see him going, oh, like I guess we'll bomb Cambodia. Yeah, let's do it, right? Well, that's cool, right? Like he's just like that the whole time,
He's a #1 sweater. And this,
Yeah.
like that dude sweats better than anybody. Like, and obviously,
Yeah,
it's
he's
probably
a sweaty
makeup, but
boy.
he is a sweaty boy. who has some health issues that they just cram into the movie for 15
Maybe, like,
seconds and then he's all
colitis or
good.
something.
Yeah, whatever. But let's talk about some of the scenes that really stuck out to us. And yeah, I'll start with you. You're probably fresher on this. You've seen it more recently.
I am fresher, and I always struggle to do the scene picking thing. I don't understand how it works. Basically, I wrote down everything that was important in Nixon's life that's in the movie, but it does feel like I did see a 3-act thing now that I couldn't see the first time because it was so messy. But it is like a chunk that is Nixon's early life and before he becomes president. Nixon during president up to Watergate, and then Watergate.
And then Watergate, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good separate. And I didn't include any of the like flashback stuff. I did not care about him in college.
Yeah.
I don't care about Mary Steenburgen being his like mom and all that stuff. I mean, I love her to death, but that stuff just did not work on me.
Right. So for me, it'd be a lot of scenes, but it'd be hitting like important things in Nixon's thing. And I mean, it starts with like setting up the Watergate stuff. So it's like the break-in, and then his initial talk with his staff about it. Then it flashes back. It gets into his famous 60 election TV debate with JFK. So that's like a famous Nixon moment. TV's kind of new for presidents. JFK's attractive, confident. Nixon's, sweaty. They always talk about how much he sweated on television. He's less attractive and seems more nervous, and it kind of loses him the election. Then we move in and go ahead.
No, what I was going to say, whenever you were talking about like the Watergate stuff and like the break-in stuff, and like not knowing certain things, like I thought I knew exactly what was going on with Watergate, and this movie just confused me about the Watergate break-in because I was like, what are they doing? Are they in the boardroom? Like, what are they talking about here? It was a weird setup to the beginning of this movie.
I could see a person who like only knows a little bit about Watergate and that Nixon was bad going into this movie and coming out of it being like, I don't know. I can't see that he did that much bad. And he seems like an okay guy. He's just having a hard time. Like the opposite of the goal of the movie.
I was just like, no. Like these are crimes. These are crimes that he's doing. But no, it was a weird beginning for me. But
it is funny that they like it's like an obvious choice. They have to start with the break-ins. That's what people know, right?
And I think it's such an interesting choice to have Haig, Powers Booth, like marching up to one. He's such a scary figure anyway. Powers Booth is, and
we were just talking about him on the rewatch, and like how like smooth skinned he is because he's so pockmarked in like Deadwood. But yeah, how tall and he's got a big voice. Like he's a frightening dude.
Yeah, he is a frightening dude. That's a weird. It's a way to set this up.
We were just saying, Sage, my girlfriend, she just said that he probably would have done a lot better in the black and white era. Like you can see Powers Booth, especially with that name.
Oh yeah,
in black and white cinema, being a cool actor.
He reminds me like a Robert Mitchum.
Yeah,
kind of guy. Yeah,
he's got a lot of presence. Yeah.
Yeah. The first thing that I pointed out when we're talking about like the pre presidential thing is that 1960 the governor race that's
what I had next, for the governor election for California,
because that's when we get the first like real Pat acting scenes. Buddy. Yeah,
Buddy. And I didn't end up caring about his relationship with his wife very much in this movie. It is well done, and it is the kind of thing that you see often. Like, okay, we need to show world leaders, but they have personal lives, so let's show their personal lives too. And Pat Nixon comes off as pretty cool. I mean, like at least both very supportive but very challenging of Richard. But I don't ultimately care because it's just too much in this kind of like meaty like stew of a movie to like ask me to care about that when I'm trying to keep up with the connect dots with everything else.
The family stuff is so weird. Not only because mostly it is just Richard Nixon and Pat Nixon and her being like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to divorce you if you do this. And him being like, oh, I'm done. I'm out. This is the last time. No more. It's like the this is my last heist movie. That's what this is my last.
Yeah, right. Like, it's one more job and I'm out. And honestly, that trope is probably very real in real life and is very valid. Like politicians do like sacrifice a lot of family, and their family have to sacrifice a lot to support them. Which doesn't make them heroes, but
no.
But like I've seen that trope in so many political movies of like, all right, we're gonna watch again this very Greek tragedy of a leader or a hero who's trying to like obtain power for good reasons, but then loses their soul along the way, and then their spouse, usually a woman, because it's usually a man who gets to do those things, being like, but okay, but when are we gonna be happy? Or this is tearing you up inside. Like it's just I've seen it so much that this isn't such a good version of it that it makes me like it again.
It makes me laugh though whenever they bring in the daughters, and it's more towards the end of it. But they bring in the daughter, and the daughter's like, "You're not a bad man, are you, Daddy?" And he's like, "No, I'm
You
not."
have to fight this. You're the best president we've ever had. I'm like, bitch, you're 35. Read a book. Like, you don't turn on the news at all.
I was about to say, read a newspaper.
Yeah, you don't watch the news at all.
Yeah.
I didn't hate both reading some trivia about it, and like I don't know, I'm sure they're fine people enough. Like I don't need to hate them, but that being emblematic of people close to evil people in power supporting their family so much that they will also put blinders over their eyes to like the effects of, I don't know. It made me hate them. It made me hate the daughters, especially like Pat Nixon. I was like, she seems like her own acting on her own intelligent agency to be, you know, complicit in her husband's dealings. But then the daughters coming in, I'm like, you're just willfully ignorant because you want your kid to be good, despite a million like fucking 16,000 hours of tape showing that he's not good.
It was just so bizarre, and you don't get any of the daughters. Like,
No.
you get one of them getting married, the other one being like, "Daddy, you're the best president ever," and it's very weird. But
yeah. And then, well, and it might have been some of that stuff might have been cut. Also, there's just not room in the movie for much of the daughters anyway. But the daughters did throw a big fit when this movie came out, like publicly, about how it was cruel and, you know, mean. And then I was like, all right, man, I don't think I think you kind of waived those rights.
I think this is the least mean movie that you could have made about Richard
Yeah,
Nixon.
honestly, let me make a movie about Nixon. See how you feel about that.
Feel bad for Pat. Dick's hard to deal with. Well,
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. What else you got? Like,
yeah, after that, I mean, we can say this for a second. They do go back to the Alger Hiss stuff early in his career. And it's very poorly explained in the film. And it doesn't need to be in the film at all, honestly. But they keep referencing it later, too. So this is the point where you start to learn about Alger Hiss and how he he kind of scammed his way to take down the person he thought was a communist who wasn't a communist. It was one of the times. Here's two complaints I had was about the movie is that they do spend a lot of time later about the spiraling of Watergate, but that feels like a long montage, and it doesn't actually explain what happens in the Watergate trial and all the things that come out. And they barely ever talk about they mention it, but they don't show in this 3-hour movie all of the stuff he did as like Joseph McCarthy's right-hand hatchet man, just like dragging veterans and poets into the courtroom and calling them communists and ruining their lives. And like those are two huge parts of Richard Nixon's career that are left out of this 3-hour movie. Or
they mention it. I mean, seriously, they mention it in like newsreel footage kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's it. That's all you get of that stuff. And I'm like,
and so right after the governor's election is the first time we also get like it happens twice in the movie where there's like a weird narrator. There's a voiceover, and he's kind of doing like a World War II like newsreel style like biography of Nixon, but he's kind of not. And then you don't see that again for another hour and a half, and then it happens again, and then that's it. It's so strange.
It is very strange. And then we get into like the Bay of Pigs stuff, like right before the Kennedy assassination.
Yes, the Kennedy assassination stuff is next. And I mean, there's good like introductions of characters. You see Margaret and John Mitchell, you meet Kissinger and Rockefeller, but that's right before the Kennedy assassination. Yeah, and then the way the Bay of Pigs as his code word is used in this movie is very confusing. You really have to lock in on like the 2 sentences in the 3 hours that explain what the fuck they're talking about. But after the Kennedy assassination, there's like, it's during the Watergate thing where he gets really scared that one of the Hunt, I think Howard Hunt, maybe, like one of the names that's involved in Watergate. And we're like, oh, we can't like let him be caught because he knows shit about Bay of Pigs. And we're like, what do you mean Bay of Pigs? That's Kennedy's thing. And that ends up being a code word for Oliver Stone's little conspiracy theory thing that like somehow Nixon and some other people were trying to assassinate Castro, and then a bunch of like spy shit happened, and they ended up assassinating Kennedy instead. Like. So that Nixon was complicit in the Kennedy assassination, which they keep using as in the code word for that is Bay of Pigs, which if you're trying to keep up with this movie, you know anything about history, is nothing to do with Bay of Pigs.
No.
Dumb.
It is so dumb. Again, I just encourage everybody just to watch JFK if you want a fun JFK conspiracy movie, a good Oliver Stone movie.
Yeah.
That's the one.
But that's like the end of the first act I have, because then there's some other stuff that happens, obviously, but then 1968 is presidential election.
Did the town hall in the Hoover And the horse track, that's all before he gets elected, right?
Yeah, but we're getting into the election era, I guess, right
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Okay.
But then it's not about the early stuff. Now it's about him becoming president and his presidency up to Watergate. And then there's like a lot of cool things referenced in this middle part of the movie, but they're just like all over the place.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything really from his like the election. All I have is that like the Hoover interactions, the him meeting up with J. Edgar Hoover at the horse track,
Yep.
with that scene.
He promises to end the war. He does reveal some stuff about track 2, where like when he was vice president under Eisenhower, which they barely mention, like he had set up all the like track 1 was like the Bay of Pigs invasion, and track 2 he was like trying to like had set up all these back channel things to just manipulate Latin American countries horribly and immorally, which our country did the entire mid-20th century.
Is the checker scandal part of this, or is that part of his 60 race?
I think that's earlier.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the weird voiceover.
Yes.
Because it's when he gets accused of like some grift or something, and he goes on television and lists everything. He like goes through his entire finances on national television, everything he owns and where he got it. And then in a kind of genius political move, it was like, I was given one political gift, and I have to admit it, and it was this dog Checkers, and my daughter loves it so much, I'm going to tell you guys I'm not giving it back, which is it was a baller politics move, but yeah.
I did like that part of the movie because they were like, don't do this, and then he did it, and ends up being good for him instead. So
yeah, it is one of those think outside the box, like Alexander the Great, be brave, cut the Gordian knot. Like, what if we just got out there, got ahead of this, and I just own the narrative. So it is one of the few moments in the movie where Nixon isn't wringing his hands and sweating, but is actually kind of being a badass.
The only time,
maybe the only time, honestly.
The only time.
So then there's like a lot of stuff throughout his presidency, choosing to bomb Cambodia. And Nixon's famous for the madman theory that, like, he kind of, whether this is true or not, there's debate, but that he manipulated China very well during his presidency, because he would send Kissinger over to China or Vietnam and be like, hey, I'm normal. I get it, bro. Like, we don't want to get crazy and atomic about this, but Nixon, that guy's a madman. Like, kind of portraying Nixon to China as a crazy person, but all of his aides are normal. Like, you can work with us, but we got to rein in the pit bull, because who knows, he might do anything crazy. So the madman theory was something that the Nixon administration put out there publicly as like, look at how smart we are. And I'm sure there's some truth to it, but how true it is, I think people believed it because they're like, well, Chinese people are stupid, right? Like they don't know how to watch American television when he's admitting that he's lying to them. So this must be working.
It's interesting, and I would love to know, like, I think about this era of history for us, and I think about how much is influenced, or what the direct result of Vietnam and China and all this stuff has on us now. Like, why are we here now? So I'm fascinated with this kind of era, just because I
mean, post-war through the Cold War, like it can't be understated. Like, we feel like a million things happen now and a million crazy things happen now, and they are. It is like difficult but possible to keep up with all of our foreign policy and domestic like crazy news stories. Like, it's a lot, no doubt. But like 1960 to 1990, like the amount, like I learned things, every crazy shit. I learned crazy shit from this movie. I started Googling. I was like, I didn't know they did that. That's wild. It's so hard to keep up with how many countries we were assassinating people in, and like dethroning governments and funding like rebels all over the world. It is bonkers how dense this part of history is, which is what makes it fun in a kind of way, like a fascinating part of history. And Nixon's right there in the middle of it. Vietnam is right there in the middle of that.
Because oftentimes people like to blame. I mean, there's a lot of blame that can be thrown around for where we're at as a country and or where we're at as a world. All that Reagan gets thrown in there, but I'm always like, go back further. It goes back. I promise you. Like, this result gives us Reagan, or this does this to get us to that point. And to where we are now. It's I'll
come back to the scene, but like the two things I have from now are like, they're mentioned and they're important, but they're hard to understand if you don't know what they're talking about. The Pentagon Papers come out, and that's a huge leak, a huge government leak of a lot of stuff that was being talked about Vietnam for the previous 25 years, and about how like everything they've told the public was wrong. Everything was a lie about whether or not China was actually involved in the North Vietnamese uprising was a lie, and they knew it. Eisenhower lied to the public. JFK lied to the public. Most famously, everybody always references that there's a lot of documents in there where they say, "Oh, there's no way we can win this war. We know we can't win this war. We just want to throw bodies into a meat grinder to slow China down and bleed them of resources." And that was their plan for like 20 years before Nixon's even in office, And so, but all that comes out and during Nixon's administration, and is a huge, and people are already sick of the war. So like it definitely is another blow.
It's fascinating stuff, man. Like this movie could have been better.
It could have been better because it does so many cool things. But again, I have to use I have to be on Wikipedia.
Yeah,
and things up for my memory to understand what's cool on screen, because the screen's not explaining to me that what they're doing is important and cool. Which is, I mean, don't get me wrong. It is a heavy task to try to make all of these things make sense in a coherent way to an audience. And you need 3 hours to do it, and you kind of need Oliver Stone to do it. But I think he dropped the ball on.
Well, and I think you have like 15 years that you can cover, and like there's probably like 5 years of that 10 of the 15 that you don't have to stick on very long. But then Oliver Stone chooses these weird things to do where he is bringing you back into his childhood and giving you those scenes. He is giving you those scenes where he's in college, which I think are the most useless scenes in this movie.
Yes.
The college scenes I think are just,
oh, they're so bad. Yeah. I think he's doing a thing that I think he's choosing a very frenetic editing style in order to show how frenetic this period of history was.
Yeah.
And how these things are all overlapping at the same time in American politics and in the White House itself. And that makes sense on paper, but it would have been better if I just had like a Pentagon Papers chunk and then like a bombing Cambodia and Laos chunk. But instead, they're all kind of like skipping over each other, and then some of them disappear, and you're like, "Oh, I guess that's all we're getting on that." Now we're talking about something new.
I almost wish, and I don't know if you've seen this movie, but the Steve Jobs movie that Danny Boyle did a couple or like 10 years ago or whatever. I liked how that was presented. Like they give you 3 separate points in history for him, and here's what we're going to discuss for those things.
Yes,
in 3 acts.
Very clean. Yes, it's
very clean. And I think that if we had a Nixon movie like that, I would be all about that Nixon.
Or if you could Frankenstein like the Frost Nixon thing, which is about like a couple days of an interview that cover a lot of his career, and you make that the frame story. So it's like Frost Nixon 3 hours long, and then you have these flashbacks to everything they're talking about, coming back to Nixon defending himself in the interview. I think that could be really cool.
We don't even get the Frost interview in this movie, do we?
No, I mean it happens a few years after he leaves office.
Yeah, so they're like, nah, we're going to end with the resignation, and that's going to be it.
Yeah.
Which,
Frost Nixon's like a great play and a great movie, but it's not as important as the play movie makes it out to be, kind of.
Yeah.
It's got that one line where he's like, the president does it. It's not a crime. That's what I'm saying, At that point, also in politics, like, who cares what atrocities you did yesterday? You're not president now, so
you're not president anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, what else you got?
So I skipped over real quickly. It's not a good scene, but it's trying to be the middle soul of the movie is the Lincoln Memorial scene.
Yes, that's the next one I had. Yeah.
It's kind of fascinating, like, to think about how that scene is shot and scripted. But Nixon wanders up at night to the Lincoln Memorial, and there's a bunch of young hippie protesters around, and they recognize him, and then they have like a little tete-a-tete where they argue with each other.
And is that post I can't even think of the movie. It's the Ohio University shooting. Kent State shooting, yeah.
I thought I wrote Kent State down a little lower, but no, I think you're right. That's probably right after that happened.
It's either right before it or right after it happens.
Yeah, I think you're right.
No, I really did like that scene. One of the things though that and maybe I guess Republicans have been doing this for years, and again, you're Republican, whatever. But like, love pimping out Abraham Lincoln
as a Republican. Yeah, get out of here.
And every time he like references Lincoln in this movie, I just roll my eyes. I'm like, come on, man. Like,
well, I found this scene fascinating and other moments in it. And I did attach it to my feelings about a lot of people with conservative politics, but I do think that everything I'm about to say applies to people with all types of politics, especially people in power and people with egos in power. But there's one thing of like refusing to listen to what the other person's saying and never taking them at face value. So it's like, hey, a bunch of people are dying in Vietnam, and you said you're going to end the war. Well, see, no, what I'm going to do is better than that. And it was like, no. And multiple times in the movie, he goes, why do they hate me? And I'm like, they keep telling you why they hate you. They keep saying it to you. But the idea that people have where they can't confront their own failings or their own dishonesty, so they have to find this secret reason. There's some other secret reason why they hate me or why they're so angry or whatever. And they're like, oh, well, we're angry because of X, Y, and Z. It was like, yeah, but I don't understand why you're so angry. It was like, no, we just told you X, Y, Z. So that happens in the scene. And the other thing is hiding evil behind ideals, where it's like, well, China gets bigger than this way, and I'm trying to make a better America. And I'm actually trying to fight the system more than you think or whatever. And it's like, at the end of the day, you're bombing kids. You're bombing kids in a neutral country against the law and without the American people's consent. We're mad about that. And they're like, well, you don't understand. Like, I have these ideals. Actually, my father became a Republican, because Lincoln was. It was like, that's not what this is about. We don't care,
Yeah.
But when people are like backed into a corner, there's this need to be like, you're attacking me and I'm confused by it, but there's no reason to be confused because you're being told why. And no, like I'm a good person. I have these greater ideals and I'm trying to do these greater things. But yeah, you're still not addressing what these kids are saying to you, that they're upset by it, That was just a good scene that encapsulated that kind of ego and the blocks people put up to hear their critics.
And it doesn't really do anything for him. He doesn't learn any lesson out of this either. Like they're just like, let's get him out of here. And then he doesn't really do anything with these kids, like information.
And once again, the movie's too nice to him, because then there's the girl at the end who was like, you know what? You don't have the power. It's the system. I understand. I understand what you're saying. You end the war, but you don't. Like, why is she saying that? He wouldn't end the war. He was like, bomb those kids. We don't care. Like,
yeah.
So I don't know why, like the one hippie girl in the movie is like actually more sympathetic to Nixon than the movie.
And that's the only thing, because that's the only line that he goes on to be like, yeah, you're right. It is.
Yeah.
It's an animal. And
I'm trying to change 10% of the system, and that's all I can do, but I'm trying to do it. And they're like, I guess so. And I don't know why that's.
We'll take it. Yeah, we're good. It's a fascinating scene. I think it's probably it might be my favorite scene.
Yeah, I think it's a complete failure, but it is also a welcome reprieve because it's like a scene and not just like like shit going everywhere about everything.
It's adding some drama to this movie that is trying to just be like facts. And
this movie does feel like your one friend from college got really drunk and is talking to you about the Nixon administration, right? Doesn't that feel that way?
Yes, it does. This is a drunk history episode.
And also, you have to understand, like, his brothers died of tuberculosis, and this all goes back to Alger Hiss. It all goes back to Alger Hiss,
Pigs. That was a code
word. Papers, right? Yeah, Pentagon Papers, but also this later on. And I was like, Jesus, man, just slow down. Let's tell the story from the beginning.
The next thing I have are just like, I guess it's almost like a supercut of all the like congressional hearings that are going on, and him like abandoning everybody and what is it called? The Saturday. It's not Black Saturday. The Saturday Massacre or something like that. Again, it seemed
about Watergate stuff.
Yeah, it seemed way more important in the movie, and then it says, "No, I'm done with that." Like this was a much bigger thing that happened, and I don't feel like they cared about it at all.
It does feel like Oliver Stone is ranting and building up. He's like, I got to tell you all this stuff to make the Watergate stuff feel amazing. Like, really make it land. And then by the time he's like, I'm really tired. I don't know.
Yes, that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And then you get back to that.
I want to go there real quick because they do Nixon going to China is a big part of his career, and they do that stuff. The detente with Russia those are both big successes for his career, and they go over that. And then they real quick go over firebombing Hanoi and the civilians there in Hanoi, assassinating Salvador Allende, which America will forever be tainted by that horrible crime in Chile. The EPA, which is big, and then there's even a mention of integration still going on. And then that's it. And they finally get out of Vietnam, and then they get into Watergate. And then he burns Mitchell first. And then
who is his best friend?
Yeah.
He makes sure to say that is my best friend. He's still.
Remember you saw him for a few seconds 2.5 hours ago? My best friend.
Remember how we're not going to talk about the kidnapping of Margaret Mitchell?
Yeah, how she was trapped in a room. Yeah.
We're not going to talk about that stuff. We don't want our best actress in this movie to have any scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I loved Madeline. She was so funny in the beginning of this movie.
Oh my God, I wish she had way more of her.
Yes.
Right? And also, this movie needs that. It needs some more feminine presence. It needs more levity. Like we rewatched one of my favorite movies I've talked to you about, but I rewatched Charlie Wilson's War recently. And like having this kind of lighthearted repartee in an Aaron Sorkin script, or having the Julia Roberts like almost absurd, rich Texas billionaire woman, conservative, but like fighting the Russians. Like all of that makes it so much more fun and easy to pay attention to. And so Madeline Kahn being around, or just having a talking head every now and then where she was like saying something funny about what was happening, would have been so welcome.
Man, what would an Oliver Stone Aaron Sorkin movie be like?
That would be crazy.
Would it be
I mean,
great?
I think Aaron Sorkin would finally get to not be edited by somebody else. He's like,
That would be
hours? God, yeah.
That would be so nice. I'm just thinking about that. Like, because I think Oliver Stone is a great filmmaker, and I don't always think that Aaron Sorkin has the great filmmaker thing to him. He's made some okay movies. And,
yeah. Well, I
but-
do think it would be like drinking from a fire. I think it would be an exhausting. Like I'd finish the movie in a flop sweat, but it'd be an experience. I'd probably love it, but like, yeah, it's a lot. I can't recommend it to everybody, but
Or I just need maybe Ken Burns. Throw him in there too.
as a side note, it's been a while since I've seen Oliver Stone's greatest movies, or any Oliver Stone movie. I don't know that he's a great filmmaker. I think he's passionate and brave.
Well, and I think Hollywood was wanted that, Vietnam vet story. Like this guy did it.
Cinema poet laureate of Vietnam, and he
Yes.
definitely was that. Yeah.
Yes,
Because there are other movies, but like obviously Coppola's not making, like Apocalypse Now more and more. But Oliver Stone's
Right.
like, I'll go back to it.
Everything
so
goes
I think
back to it.
Yeah, but the filmmaking in this is bad. The cinematography is bad. The editing decisions are crazy. But what it is like bold and in your face and making choices. And so I think when that lands, when all of it comes together, Oliver Stone's genius is being passionate about the topic, being willing to trudge through it and include all of it, and not caring that he sometimes throws out wild conspiracy theories that are unfounded as if they're true. I think that makes Oliver Stone a great filmmaker. But when it comes down to like being a director, I guess, or a cinematographer, I'm like, ooh, man, I don't know.
It's almost like
uncontrolled.
it's almost like he got that Tarantino bug because he was like, oh, the kids are all into Tarantino. And then he's like, okay, we're going to put the Natural Born Killers out. And then I'm going to make Natural Born Killers the real guy who's Richard Nixon.
The real guy.
The real Natural Born Killer, a.k.a. the president.
Yeah, Natural Born Killers is actually pretty tight for a Oliver Stone movie, too. Like, it's not overly long, right? It's not a super long, bloated movie.
No. But I'm just saying, like, the frenetic energy behind some of, like, the choices that he makes in that. Some of the scenes in particular where he's like, okay, I'm going to film this like it's a sitcom. And then I'm going to, have it be like a really trippy section. And then we're going to, do all these, like, weird fisheye close-ups on people. And I think it makes sense in that movie. And
it makes sense in that movie. And it does. But it also, even when he's like a 50-year-old filmmaker or whatever, he feels like a college kid. He's like, well, what if we did this thing too, and this thing too, and this thing too? And
that's what I'm saying. That's what I think he tried to do with Nixon. He's like, hey, but let me just try these things. That's what the kids are into these days. So
the random, like the camera's coming around and up to Nixon's face, or like the camera's going up into the sky. Like it comes out of nowhere, and then it's not consistent for the rest of the movie.
Yes.
I just looked down during the Pentagon Papers, which is a small scene in the thing. It goes black and white for 5 minutes for no reason. It's not a flashback. It's black and white. For no reason. Why I don't understand why he did that.
And he does some of that stuff in JFK, but it like kind of makes sense in JFK. I'm sorry, I keep referencing it, but
no, that's fair.
I like to watch.
JFK this is the same movie. It's just JFK was very successful and is still beloved, and this one I'd never even heard of existing.
So yeah. It's it's interesting for him to shoot the movie like he did for this. And then you have, like, we were just talking about the Lincoln Memorial scene. Like, that is a very straightforward scene. Like, that is just
that feels like an Aaron Sorkin scene because
it's
so unbelievable. Then the president wanders around the mall at night contemplating his power, comes across the statue of Lincoln and has a real long conversation with some hippie kids. Like, this never happened, But,
no.
But it's a good set piece. It's very a play, like theater play set piece to like talk about like who this character is and who other people are.
And there's a couple like talking scenes within the White House and everything, but it doesn't have that like Sorkin punch that you would want.
That's why I do think the script writing is the biggest flaw in this movie.
Yeah.
We get into the Watergate era, and there's not a lot to drill down on. There's a couple scenes I'd like to talk about, but like it's mostly like this weird fever dream of him spiraling out of control, where people are talking in the background about new hearing, new evidence. Oh, there's tapes. Oh, this person turned. Oh, there's 18 and a half minutes missing. Oh no, did you hear about this? And then like until it leads up to his resignation.
Which is interesting too, because there actually is a fever dream section of the movie too, where he actually gets ill.
Or something.
Yeah, he has these weird dreams, and like it's like the artsy part of the movie.
Yeah, which is like, yeah, especially at the end when you're falling short on actually explaining what happens during the Watergate era, and we're exhausted from the movie. Again, this also just humanizes Nixon. Like, you know that he's a bad guy the whole time, and everything you see shows that he's a bad guy, and yet somehow the movie makes it feel like, man, look at this tragic fall from grace. He could have been amazing. It's like
you're a contender. But yeah, I have the illness was the big thing, and then like the credits, his resigning, his resignation.
Is crazy. There's a couple things in there I'd talk about for a second. I do think one of my favorite scenes in the movie is, and it's one of the quietest, most straightforward, is when he slowly pressures Howard Dean, right? What's his name? Dean.
It's not Howard Dean, because I got that confused. I thought about that. Isn't that the guy that goes or whatever?
Yeah, that's
Howard
that
Dean.
guy. He was
John Dean, David Hyde Pierce.
Howard Hunt, John Dean. Yeah. John Dean, when he does the slow pressure, like to set him up, like very obviously to take a fall, and he's like, I don't want to do that, Mr. President. I think that seems really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the acting is strange because his aides don't seem that invested after all of this time. He's like, I don't think I want to take a fall. And then he's not emotional. He's not angry. He's not scared. You don't see his like eyes darting after the door closes or anything. When Ehrlichman and the other guy have to resign, it shows Haldeman sitting on the couch with his family as the president announces their resignation. And he has no emotion whatsoever. None at all. So they're kind of robotic about it all at the end. The other scene, which is fascinating, is a little bit of a walk and talk where they reveal like Bay of Pigs maybe being his complicity in the Kennedy assassination. He mentions 3 things that aren't in the movie that I didn't know about and I had to Google. He was like, because Nixon's going like, oh, every president does this shit. I don't know why they're so mad. And they walk out the door, Haldeman and Ehrlichman, I think, and they go, but they didn't. Like LBJ didn't do this. JFK didn't do this. Like, and he says the bombing, the firebombing of the Brookings Institution, giving LSD to Jack Anderson, and planting McGovern stuff on the Wallace shooter. Like, they never did any of that. I was like, whoa, Nixon did that? I'd like, is that why is that not in the movie? And I had to look it up, and none of those things happened. But in their talks, like Charles Colson, his hatchet man, did, like, there's records that they were like, what if we bombed the Brookings Institution and stole a lot of the Pentagon Papers before they all got out? And the committee in the documents say they didn't do it because they didn't want to pay for a fake fire truck as a getaway vehicle. That's a documented part of history. I didn't know.
Didn't know that either.
Jack Anderson was I didn't know who he was, but he was on Good Morning America during this era, and he like coined Tricky Dick and was like a real hard ass against the Nixon administration. And they were trying to figure out a way to get rid of him. And one of the ideas they had was to put LSD on his steering wheel so that he would get in a car accident, which is wild. And then the last one is they actually were going to plant George McGovern, who was Nixon's opponent, when George Wallace was shot and killed. George Wallace, horrible, racist, very far-right Republican governor, was shot and killed. Nixon was running against McGovern, and they wanted to go to the shooter's apartment and plant a bunch of McGovern like political stuff to make the Democrats look bad. And they tried to, but the FBI got to the apartment before the guy could.
Yeah, I did read that stuff. I
didn't know any of that. But then that's just like, this is a 3-hour movie, and he's like, bam, 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 and he just moves the fuck on. I'm like, whoa, yeah. Like, why do I still get flashbacks of his mom and not any of that?
We just wanted to put Mary Steenburgen on screen some more.
Anyways, yeah, sorry to yell all that at you, but I thought that was
love that. I love all that stuff. Any other scenes that really stuck out?
Nope, that's it. Just the resignation. Obviously, you get his not a crook thing. Oh, and then I do like the moment where he like, because this could have been throughout the whole movie and would have been more damning. Famously, when Nixon's documents came out, he said the most racist shit ever all the fucking time. And you don't really see that in the movie, but there's the moment where the stuff comes out and he wants to redact it. He was like, I said this, people are going to think I'm anti-Semitic. Well, you are. I said the N-word a lot. Like, people are going to think I'm racist. Well, you are.
Yeah.
And so he starts redacting all that stuff. So I don't know, like, they don't need to have Anthony Hopkins saying the N-word a lot in this movie, but they also, if they're really trying to be an accurate, like, portrayal of Nixon's life and his, like, White House, why isn't all this real stuff in there? It would have been a better, like, damning portrait of who he was.
Again, because I don't know what the message of this movie is. Am I supposed to feel sorry for Richard Nixon?
Yeah.
And I don't understand why Oliver Stone, of all people, did it like this.
Right.
Or if he even knew that or obviously he knew what he was doing, but like, did he think that it wasn't like trying to be sympathetic? And I don't know. It's a very uneven movie.
Time to watch it, but I found there's like a 2-hour C-SPAN panel about this movie that came out like the year it came out. I don't know who's on it, but the people involved in the filmmaking are on it. But also, like, you know, it's C-SPAN, so they've got like real political interviewers. I'd really love to see what they say about it, or love to see if Oliver Stone had a statement of intent about this movie at some point in his career.
Yeah, I would like to see some more stuff on Oliver Stone, and I know he's still, you know, riding that JFK train because he put out a documentary like 2 years ago about JFK assassination.
Well, he had a hit recently, right? But he had a lot of failures. I mean,
yeah. He's had not a lot of success. He did a Wall Street sequel within the last like 10, 15 years. And
Alexander was a huge budget that failed.
Snowden. He has his Edward Snowden movie.
I want to watch that, but I don't think anybody ever did.
No, I don't think anybody did. Just whatever. Who's your favorite character? Or was there somebody that really stole the show for you?
Oh, Bob Hoskins.
I mean, Bob Hoskins is incredible. What a choice for who
Hey, he's not in the movie a lot, but he steals us every time. It's so much fun when he's on screen.
I put Martha Mitchell too.
Yeah,
Madeline. I really liked the Haldeman. Like, I thought James Woods was good as Haldeman.
It's funny that it's probably smart because there's so many of these names that are like epic in the Nixon era, like Haldeman and Ehrlichman and Dean and everything. It's hard to keep them up when you're just like reading about it or listening to a podcast. But it was probably smart, but they gave Haldeman most of the talking.
Yeah.
Like Ehrlichman over there, I forget that actor's name. Like, he barely says anything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Paul Sorvino or Kissinger. I liked Kissinger.
I liked Paul Sorvino a lot.
I didn't even know it was him. Like, I saw the name flash and I was like, okay, whatever. Paul Sorvino's in this. And I was like, oh, wait, he's playing Kissinger. And
which is funny because he was a fascinating character and a kind of likable character in this movie. And Henry Kissinger is like a merchant of death. Like, he should rot in hell forever. He might still be alive. Did he finally die?
If he died, it was within the last like few years.
Because it's a meme online, like, just to remind you, Henry Kissinger's still alive, and everybody's like, "Really? That fucking monster?"
He died in 2023. It was 100 years old.
Yeah, he lived forever. No, I mean, he's like as evil, or probably maybe even more evil than Nixon, because he did it across multiple administrations. Like, fuck that dude. He sucks so bad, but he's kind of cool in this movie.
I mean, hey, you're talking about a Nobel Peace Prize winner in Henry Kissinger. Kissinger's a fascinating figure, though.
He really is.
Like, every president loves Henry Kissinger,
and he just showed up to every president, no matter who they were, and like did their dirty work, but did it like with a clean suit and a lot of like, I don't know. He's more scarier than a Nixon, because a Nixon is like a Greek hero whose ego, pride, you know, his hubris will make him fall. Kissinger is just cold, calculated, effective.
He's almost like a God. What is George Bush's vice president?
Rumsfeld,
yeah, he's almost like, or not a Rumsfeld, but
he's about Dick Cheney. Yeah, he's more like
he's like a Dick Cheney, like behind the scenes. Hey, I'm going to be doing I am your president. I am the president.
Yes,
but I'm also Henry Kissinger.
He is that guy. Yeah, he is like a shadow operator across all of the middle of America, and he's got tens of millions of lives, blood on his hands.
Definitely the most likable character.
He's kind of cool in this movie.
Any quotes that you thought were, really good?
Yeah, we got quotes.
I didn't write down a ton, and I didn't realize that until I got to my notes today.
That's all right. There's a lot of like important things being said, but not a lot of like killer quotes.
Yeah.
I liked when he was 12 years old and he was kneeling down before his mother and says, "Think of me always as thy faithful dog." Don't say that to your mother.
Yeah, I love that he had to talk to her in that way too. He was like, using all his slang and everything, or talking like a normal person. But then when mom comes around, he's got to say his these and thys, and thy noble dog. Yeah. I like the line when he's looking at the picture of Kennedy, and he says, "When they look at you, they see what they want to be, and when they look at me, they see what they are." I like that a lot.
I think that's like based on a real quote, whether Richard Nixon said it or somebody said it about him. I've heard that before, and it's
good.
a great line.
That is a great line.
Let's see. Yeah, these aren't that good. I like I right after JFK's murder, he says, "I bet if I was president, they wouldn't have killed me." Which has very well. Who was it? Was it like Mark Wahlberg who said he would like stop 9/11 if he was on the plane?
Yes, that is exact. That is 9/11 wouldn't have happened if Mark Wahlberg was on that plane.
I love the Henry Kissinger line. Can you imagine what this man would be like had anyone ever loved him?
He said to Mal, "Power is the ultimate aphrodisiac."
Yeah, there's some good Mal quotes in those scenes. There's like some good writing there. Mal says, "We are both from poor families, and others pay to feed the hunger in us. In my case, it's millions of reactionaries. In your case, millions of Vietnamese."
Yes, it said, "Is peace all you're interested in? The real war is in us. History is a symptom of our disease."
History is a symptom of our disease is like a banger sentence.
Yeah, that's really good stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking through these. These all aren't worth sharing, but there's just a lot of stuff that's actually gets to Richard Nixon's character. That's good. Like when he's arguing with Pat, his wife, she's like, "What are you scared of?" And she's like, "I'm not scared. You don't understand. They're playing for keeps, buddy. The press, the kids, the liberals are out there. They're trying to figure out how to tear me down." And she goes, "They're all your enemies?" And he's like, "Yes." And she goes, "You personally?" And he goes, "Yes, this is about me. Why can't you understand? You of all people, it's not the war, it's Nixon. They want to destroy Nixon. And if I expose myself even the slightest bit, they'll tear my insides out." Yeah, and so I do like the way that Oliver Stone portrays Nixon taking everything so personally as well. And then he talks in the third person all the time, which is absurd.
It's because it's not even like it's a third person. It's like it's almost like the brand.
Yes,
like he's talking about it like Nixon is the brand, and
so when he sees himself saying like the N-word all those times, he's like, "Well, Nixon can't say that."
Yeah, Nixon can't say that.
But Anthony Hopkins' performance makes it doesn't seem. It feels like he's talking about Nixon as a brand, but the way he's performing it feels like a psychosis.
Yeah. Biggest laughs, cries, scares, or thrills?
Honestly, I think I had a couple of laughs and none of the others.
Every time he says cocksucker, I laugh.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I like when the Checkers hates Nixon. He's like, "That dog doesn't like me." Even a dog doesn't like Richard Nixon.
I honestly, I laughed at the end whenever he has Henry Kissinger praying with him.
Oh yeah, that scene is unhinged.
"Don't be too proud, Henry. Never be too proud to go on your knees before God."
And then he really like sobs it up. He's like, "What's happening to me? Why is this happening?" I'm like, Jesus, man.
He's the worst.
I bet Oliver Stone thought that shit was gonna go so hard when you
Yeah.
finally see him break down, but it doesn't.
No, he's the worst Quaker of all time.
I didn't notice this till my second view, and it happens really quick. But it's when they think, I don't know if this is true historically, but they think that actually Kissinger's behind a bunch of leaks. And Haldeman goes, "I said it back then. I've been saying it the whole time. I knew it was him." And Nixon just goes, "No, you didn't, Bob," and then moves on. Just like, you didn't say that. Shut up.
You didn't say any of that. No, I like that.
But that's all I have.
Yeah. Most ridiculous moment.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. The praying scene's pretty good.
I had the Hoover cucumber.
Oh yes, the Hoover cucumber. Man, that is Hoskins is just owning that scene.
Just playing it up. He's like, "Hey, you want to portray at J. Edgar Hoover like this? I'm game. Let's go."
Yeah.
And
I've never seen him in a role like that.
Yeah, me neither. But I I want to see that Hoover movie. I don't want to see the was it Leo DiCaprio version of Hoover? I want a Bob Hoskins Hoover movie. That would have been good.
Like that scene, like those scenes alone make me think like maybe going throughout the year and I have to like find 1995 recasts so that I might be thinking Bob Hoskins more than I ever would before. Like now that I know he can do that kind of work.
Yeah, he's incredible. He's so good. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Best music moment.
I mean, I didn't really have any. There's like some trivia about the end credits, but that's about it.
I like the Victory at Sea at the end when he's just playing it on the record player, Victory at Sea, and he's like singing along to it.
Yeah.
Like
Well, and then when it's,
that's at his like most broken.
Yes. And then early in the movie when he's doing Happy Days Are Here Again, he's like, because he lost the election, he's like banging the piano.
Mm-hmm. All right, now it's time for F, Marry, Kill.
Kill.
Kill. It's Kissinger, J. Edgar Hoover, and Haldeman.
Oh my God. Yeah, I have to betray all my values to. Let's see. In Haldeman, you said?
Haldeman, yeah. I wanted James Woods to be in there.
Yeah. I'd fuck J. Edgar Hoover.
He seems like a good time.
I mean, it seems like he was like against like almost like risking his entire career and legacy, wanted to fuck in his own way. So I give him respect for that. And then I'd probably marry Haldeman and definitely kill Kissinger. I mean, I feel like
Kissinger.
I couldn't look God in the eye if I didn't take him out.
Yeah, Haldeman he seems like a good family man. Like,
yeah, he's obviously evil
to...
too, but he's got less blood in his hands than the other two. And yeah, he does seem like a family dude, and he seemed relatable. Like I could sit down, and nobody else in this movie could I sit down and talk to and not want to kill myself.
Not at all. Who do you think gave the best performance?
I mean, it's got to be Hopkins, honestly, because there's not a lot of other performances in here, unless we just want to talk about Bob Hoskins again,
right?
Or Madeline Kahn. They're in it too little, but they're both like such welcome freshes of air in this. I do think I liked David Hyde Pierce in this. It was not much of a performance. It wasn't very loud, but I liked when he was talking.
Yeah, it made me curious. I mean, I guess he just gets on TV and does Frasier for the next like 15 years. But yeah, you don't really see David Hyde Pierce show up in any movies.
Well, he's already in Frasier by now, isn't he?
Yeah. I think 93 or 94
yeah.
Frasier. So I like James Woods in this movie. I hate James Woods as a human being, but I think he's good in it. They're good. Like this genre, like not genre. These guys that are in their like 40s, 50s, like are great people at playing people who are in their like in the 50s, 60s, 70s. Like they just look the part and act the part so well.
Absolutely. We were talking about it. I mean, I have very little to say on the recast section, but like it's hard to like look up actors now that can do this because it feels like we have like old workhorses and just kids, and there's like it's hard to find it's hard to find like a 42-year-old actor who could play a little younger or a little older who's like doing great acting work.
I struggled with like 2025 casting of Richard Nixon. So on that, do you have any recasting?
Only a little bit. Actually, I only have one thing to say. Well, in 95, it almost wasn't worth trying because everybody's in this movie already, it feels like. But you know what? I think De Niro.
I had De Niro.
Like, yeah. It feels good. He's like the actor. It feels very obvious, but I think he could pull off Nixon.
I thought Tommy Lee Jones would have been a good Nixon. And then like John Voight came out to me as like being a good Nixon.
I forget who else I thought of, or maybe it's 2025 people. Because in 2025, I was like thinking of like Josh Brolin, but there are good actors that also would need to like bring their physicality down to Nixon, but would be good actors to do it. Anthony Hopkins is very tall, right? But he's or is he not?
I don't know how tall he is.
I thought he was a tall man, but yeah. So like some facial changes for a lot of actors, but De Niro is kind of short and like rounded, just could hunch a bit. And
Hopkins is 5'9".
Oh, the opposite then, yeah.
He's a little bit shorter than I thought he was. The only person I said for 2025 is like Stanley Tucci as Henry Kissinger.
Yes,
he could do it.
Oh,
He'd
yeah,
nail it.
I think I've had a lot of actors that you could plug into a lot of roles, and I just couldn't really nail down which one. Or even like I liked Andrew Garfield for David Hyde Pierce.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
But I finally like the one thing I ran into in 2025 was like, I wrote a lot down like Joaquin Phoenix and Gary Oldman, but Colin Farrell as Nixon.
Ooh, yeah.
Especially the way he's acting now. Like you take a little bit of that penguin and then you give him like a Nixon voice, and I think it's great.
That's a good one. I like that. I didn't have any. I was like, John Hamm. Could he play it?
Or there's like people like Mark Rylance, but like I don't think he's right for Nixon, but he's an actor of like the right look and like ability to do it. But he's got to like get that little cute smirk off his face a little bit, and I don't know, he's British and he doesn't look right. I don't know, so it's not a good one, but He's a great actor.
He might be a good Haldeman or a good like any of those other guys on the
I would
cabinet.
definitely put him in
like,
this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, you look like the Conclave cast or whatever. Like you get all those guys in here. I don't know which one like is the best Nixon, but all those guys belong in this 2025 movie. You know?
Yeah. I think that one guy from the Italian Pope, or not the Italian Pope, the Italian priest who's vying to be Pope, he'd be a good Kissinger. He kind of looks like Kissinger a little bit.
Yeah. I always forget the guy's name, across from Hopkins and the two popes, Jonathan
Price.
Yeah. He belongs in here, but I thought about him, but he kind of looks too sweet in the face, but I mean, he's an actor. He can fix that a bit.
There's a lot of older people, but yeah, they're all.
Let's bring Frank Langella back. I don't know if he's too old now, but
yeah, he's probably too old. But I mean, AI, you can do anything.
What would you think about a version of this movie too that did like the different actors for different eras?
I think you could do that very easily, and make it a way more interesting movie.
Right.
You know who I looked up that has played Nixon? That when I learned that they had played Nixon, I was like, "That's a terrible Nixon." Is John Cusack?
Oh, John Cusack.
He played him in The Butler.
When I looked up, I saw people who's in The Butler, right?
Yeah.
I saw people say that he did a great job. I was like, well, now I finally want to watch The Butler to see John Cusack do a great or a horrible job at Nixon.
I don't remember it being good, but I thought about it. I was like, Lloyd Dobler as Richard Nixon? That's a weird choice.
I've seen John Cusack in some weird 90s stuff recently. I don't remember what it was, but it was out of range for him. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting because I know him so well through like High Fidelity and Lloyd Dobler stuff, Say Anything. And I mean, I'm a big Runaway Jury fan, but to see him in the middle of his career when he was just taking jobs in lots of different movies was kind of interesting. Yeah, I think he might have had more range than we
gave him credit for. Yeah. All right. Any fun facts that you have about this film?
Fun?
This movie made me love Richard Nixon. That's your fun fact.
Yeah. I liked that Hopkins, to prepare for this, fell asleep to audio recordings of Richard Nixon talking, which just sounds hellish.
That's what I'm going to do tonight.
Lots of people threatened to sue. Ehrlichman threatened to sue. Going back to what's his face as Richard Helms, Sam Waterston. They cut all the Sam Waterston stuff because Richard Helms, who was a former CIA director, was threatening to sue real hard. So they cut it out of the movie.
Disney didn't, like, the Disney family came after them too.
Yeah,
that was interesting.
Walt Disney's daughter like publicly was like, it's a shame that my father's company supported this movie, and publicly apologized to Nixon's daughter because apparently they kind of grew up around each other.
Stupid.
The American President White House is back from the movie The American President.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. I like this because this is on theme for the podcast. Warner Brothers rejected this, quote, because it's a bunch of unattractive older white men sitting around in suits, which is pretty based on Warner Brothers in 1995. Yeah.
They're like, we don't want this. Let's put on Demolition Man instead.
Yeah.
In Hong Kong, the movie was given the title translated to The Big Liar.
Yes, that was hilarious.
That's funny.
Just to call it The Big Liar. This may be it was fascinating when I read this kind of before I saw the movie, but now I realize it might be the problem is they had 3 editing rooms, and they would assign each editing room like a scene. And then if they ever got stuck in what to do with the scene, they would take it out and rotate it to another editing room and then like rotate around the jobs. And that was like their genius idea of how to edit this movie.
Where does that, I mean,
it's like editing by committee, you know?
Yeah, no, that seems like a terrible idea.
It seemed like a cool idea when I read it before I saw the movie, and then I saw the movie and was like, that's a bad idea.
That's a bad idea, yeah.
Let's see.
I had to think about the closing song, Shenandoah, which was Nixon's favorite song, and there was a train whistle and that's supposed to be about him hearing train whistles as he lay in bed as a child. That's the funnest fact I can
say. That I didn't really, because it didn't really have the whole like context there, but I think it was something he would talk about a lot on the on the campaign trail.
Oh, that was one of my favorite things that Hoover did was he basically, him and his partner mouthed all the things that Nixon was saying during, about his dad being a grocer, and like they just knew
Oh yeah, that was
exactly
funny.
all the stuff that he was going to say. I
Yeah,
love
listen to
that.
this bullshit again. We've all heard it.
Yeah, we've all heard the same thing.
I do have a few good ones actually. Well, it's interesting that Stone admitted that he voted for Nixon in '68 because of Nixon's promise to end the war.
In the war, yeah.
Yeah. This is Madeline Kahn's last feature film, which is crazy. She doesn't. I mean, I know she must be super old at this point. She must have died young.
No, she died of cancer. I believe she had like ovarian cancer or something like that.
Because I mean, I know her from like this, 30 years earlier a lot, but also she looked really young and good in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Hopkins turned down Bill Pullman's role in Casper to do this movie.
Mistake? Maybe. I think so.
And the last thing I have, and this will have more context when I get into. I'll talk about it a little more later, but when I get into what I've been watching recently. But Orson Welles' longtime partner, her name was Oya Kodar, accused Oliver Stone of ripping off Orson Welles' last unreleased film in terms of editing and style for this movie. So she came out and we were like, "You've seen cuts of that film that Orson Welles never got to release before he died, and you stole the whole style and put it in Nixon."
What was his last film? That
well, it is
it The Other Side of the Wind.
The Other Side of the Wind.
Yeah,
and I just watched a documentary about it.
It's released now, right? Like it came out on like Netflix or something.
Oh, I don't know. I watched it. I missed that if it came out in the documentary. Whatever was out was released. Because in the documentary, people were saying we should release it. I think he'd want it released. Peter Bogdanovich like half promised to finish it for him, but he kind of said that he didn't want to.
Yeah, I feel like it came out, and I think Netflix. I think it's on Netflix. So,
all right, I want to check it out then.
It'd be worth checking out and see if he does copy it.
Yeah.
Be like, yeah, this is Orson. Or he did steal from Orson.
I don't know. I don't know in 1995 that Oliver Stone's doing anything so new or different in this movie that's been done before that you could accuse him of copying anybody.
No,
it feels like it's public domain like technique at this point.
Yeah, that'd be, I don't know, somebody gasping for attention.
I think she's like that a little bit, yeah, or was like that.
Any other fun facts? I did not have any. This is not a fun movie. Like a Fine Wine, paired with with a dish. If you could pair this with another movie for a double feature, what would you choose?
Well, there's obvious ones, which are other Oliver Stone movies, and then All the President's Men and Frost Nixon are obvious ones. I think the more interesting one I thought of is that I'm a big fan of the Errol Morris documentaries, and there's stuff about there's a good one about the guy I said earlier, the Bush's Secretary of State, Donald Rumsfeld.
Mm-hmm.
But his maybe Errol Morris's like greatest film documentary is The Fog of War with Robert McNamara, which is like he's a very Kissinger style person in his era, more of the Kennedy stuff before Nixon. And it's Robert McNamara himself standing in a white room, going through like his like rules for living, but being asked bluntly about some of the like horrible government stuff that happened and him defending himself, like actually listening to criticisms and defending himself. And it's one of the best documentaries in the world if you like this middle 20th century American foreign policy, kind of the fog of war kind of stuff that you see in this movie. That documentary is top notch. It's so good.
Yes, I was wondering if you were gonna say Fog of War. Interesting movie. We already named all of the Oliver Stone. I mean, JFK.
Born on the 4th of July.
Born on the 4th of July. W, which is W, which is actually more of a portrait of a president's life than like JFK is a portrait of.
But it's been a while, but it's like a straight comedy. It's straight up comedy, right?
Yes, it is. It is definitely a comedy.
When I was looking at pair whips, I was like, when was the last time we had like a president movie or world leader movie that wasn't like sappy and old, like Lincoln, or a straight up comedy and satire, like or even like I watched the Sebastian Stan Apprentice movie, which is about a little bit that's close, but it's not quite like this like scope of a movie.
Yeah. And then the Dick Cheney movie Vice, which is more, I don't think it's as funny as intentionally funny as W is, but it's still satire.
It's still got some like satire and comedic elements. Yeah, Vice was pretty good.
Yeah. I also picked the movie Dick.
Oh, I don't know.
You don't know Dick?
No.
You would love it so much.
So you would love Dick. Well,
yeah, I almost said it, but yeah, you would love Dick.
I don't mind it.
It is Michelle Williams and Kirsten Dunst and Dan Hedaya plays Richard Nixon, and they're like these two hippie girls that are essentially the cause of Watergate
This
and
isn't
everything.
that old, right? This is
It's like a 98 or 99 movie.
Oh, is it really? All right.
Yeah.
Well, that premise is familiar to me, but no, I've never seen that.
That's what I would watch with this. 1999 teen movie. It's an hour and 30 minutes long. Dave Foley's in it as Haldeman. Like, it's got all the classic characters from this just done. Will Ferrell plays Bob Woodward.
Nice.
So yeah, watch that movie. That's
All
definitely.
right. What wasn't it like the last episode of like when Wet Hot American Summer came back to Netflix? I'm pretty sure like Richard Nixon comes down on a helicopter and saves the day.
That's true.
Just that episode. I
Yeah,
paired this
there we
3 hour and 10-minute movie with that episode.
That's perfect. I also said you said All the President's Men. I said The Post as well because that's about
good.
I think that's about the Pentagon Papers.
I haven't seen it, yeah, but
no, it's pretty good. Ben Bradley gets brought up in this movie briefly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What does he call Woodward and Bernstein in this?
Oh, I can't remember.
He like fucks their names up or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
it's something offensive. It's something anti-Semitic, I'm sure.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 5, how likely are you to rewatch this movie?
1.
Yeah, it's not a rewatchable movie.
I don't think I'm gonna rewatch this again in my life. There's a chance, many years in the future, but not likely.
Rate the film 1 to 5 overall.
I gave it a 2 out of 5. I do want to say though, like I do think the first hours are really well made and it's fun. And I do give it credit for, in my mind, I can't give it more than a 2, but there's part of me that almost wants to give it a half a point or a point personally because I like the topic so much. And I like that it's long and I like that it's dense. And like these are all like really good points in its favor for me that it's Oliver Stone doing a crazy dense like look at Nixon. That's very cool. But the movie's a 2 out of 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I gave it 3. I think I'm being a little too kind on it, especially after. I just felt like again he went for that Shakespearean tragedy, and it was just not portrayed as well as I think he wanted it to be. It's super bloated, and he just can't get over the JFK assassination stuff, and it just sticks with everything that he does. So it's Vietnam and JFK for him, baby. That's it. That's what it should be for all of us.
Yeah.
That's what life is. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for doing this and rescheduling with me and doing all this. But before we wrap up, have you watched anything recently that you want to recommend?
I watched some good stuff. Where are they? I know it's not the best movie in the world, but I'm glad I finally got around to it and I really enjoyed it. I watched Judy about Judy Garland's last year of life.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's worth watching.
Okay.
She does great, and it does capture a little bit of like the tragedy of Judy Garland's life, but also she's doing great as a later Judy spiraling, falling apart a little bit. So it's very sad, but it was a good movie. They'll Love Me When I'm Dead is the documentary about Orson Welles, about his last movie. I'd still love to see a documentary about his career just completely. But it does a good like little retrospect of his career while talking about him trying to make this last film with some cool archival footage of his last days when people didn't care about him. But I'm a big Orson Welles fan, not because he's a hero, but because he's fascinating and a genius. And along with that, I finally got to watch Mank. I'd never seen Mank.
What'd you think?
Man, it's if it wasn't right up my alley, it'd be worse.
Yeah.
So I think it was a really fun watch. It'd be hard for me to give it a 4. I think it probably deserves a 3 overall, but I think my enjoyment of it's like a 4. Gary Oldman was amazing.
Who is the other girl in Mank? There's the woman in Mank I loved. Amanda Seyfried. She's playing. Who does she play in that? I think she's wonderful. Marion Davies.
She was playing who?
Marion Davies.
Oh, I didn't know that was her.
Yeah, I think she's so good in that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, she was great. I honestly would have been even more impressed because I don't hate Amanda Seyfried, but I don't think of her as a great actress very much. But yeah, she killed it in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love old Hollywood, Orson Welles stuff, like fighting the HUAC committee, which we didn't get in Nixon. We get more in Mank. Yeah, so that was great. I only watched half of Bottoms so far because I didn't have time to watch the other half. But on your recommendation, Bottoms is really good.
Yeah. You watched the
And then the
top
last one
of
was
Bottoms.
I watched Saturday Night.
What'd you think of Saturday Night?
It was really fun to watch. I don't
I
think it's
like it
great,
because I think it
but I
plays
liked
it
it.
kind of what you're saying about Mank. Like it's hitting on all those things that I want to see.
Yes, there's a lot of things that about my personal like interests in those characters and that world, and that lore and whatever that I think really hit for me. Um, so that made it better than than the movie probably is. And then, but it's kind of sitting there in the shadow of a stupid and futile gesture, and
Yes.
not quite doing that right. It's a more serious and more of a serious film than stupid and futile gesture, but it's also doing the comedy stuff. Of a lot of actors playing old comic actors and exaggerated versions of them, but isn't as funny.
No, I love A Stupid and Futile Gesture. I
Yeah.
think that is an underrated movie that people don't
Mhm.
talk about enough.
Well, yeah, if somebody came to me and said like, "Oh, I found that movie. I love it too." And I'm like, "I wish there's more movies like that." I'm like, "Well, it's not quite as good. It's a little different, but go check out Saturday Night. You're gonna get like the dual casting of Andy Kaufman and Jim Henson was great.
Yeah.
The Dan Aykroyd guy was great.
I thought he was so good. Like he
Yeah.
looked like an act that was good. Yeah.
Mhm.
I like Milton Berle pulling out his big old
Yeah.
wang.
Chevy Chase is everything you've always heard about him.
Mhm.
And then honestly, the Lorne Michaels character, whether that's like anything close to reality of how that went down at the time or what his intentions were, it was really like fun to like follow him through all of these characters, stressed out in a like real time movie. So that's cool.
It's nice to see Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid in there too. He was
Oh, who's that?
Dick Ebersol.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, I like him. I think he's going to be really good.
I hope so.
In the future.
I miss Philip so much.
Yeah, I liked him in Licorice Pizza. I know some people don't like Licorice Pizza that much, but I really like that movie a lot. So, if you're in a Paul Thomas Anderson kind of mood, that's a good
Oh,
one.
and I know that was a lot, but I actually did watch I've missed the last like 5 Wes Anderson films, but I watched the Roald Dahl thing he did on Netflix.
Oh
You know
yeah,
that?
Mhm.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. Love me some Roald Dahl stuff, and it fits right along with the Wes Anderson. So
Yeah, Ray Fiennes as the rat catcher. It was pretty awesome.
yeah, I like that stuff. Anything else?
No.
I've got a few. I'm gonna hold on to some because I'm, doing this tomorrow. But I would recommend for you. I'm Still Here. It's one of the Oscar movies. Did you watch that one?
Oh yeah, I watched it. Yes, that's the
Okay, the
Brazilian
Brazilian
one.
one. Yeah. Did you
Yeah,
like it?
that was the one too because I like pirated a lot, and then I paid for it as much as I could. But I actually drove like 30 minutes to the one theater in East Memphis that was playing it. Watched it by myself. But yeah, it was a great movie.
It's a good movie. It's stuff that I did not know about, like
Yeah.
actually happening. So that was kind of fascinating. I also made Alyssa, not a made her, but she watched Singing in the Rain for the first time.
Oh yeah, did you like it?
Oh yeah, she loved it. It was
Singing in the
great.
Rain is wonderful.
Singing in the Rain
I
is
think
such a good movie.
I think it doesn't quite top an American in Paris for me, but Singing in the Rain is
Really?
yeah, I think an American in Paris is better.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, I think the ballet sequence in American in Paris is just the best thing that
I mean,
MGM
that is pretty great. And I think
Yeah.
Sid Charisse is in both of them, and I'm a sucker for Sid Charisse. So
Yeah.
I watched let's see. Trying to think of what I watched this like horror-esque movie called What You Wish For. It's on Hulu, and it's about a guy who's like a chef who's got a gambling problem who gets flown out to his buddy who's also a chef in like Central America, and then
Okay.
yeah, it's got like an interesting twist to it. They're about what this guy's doing, and it's that what you would be careful what you wish for. Oh, you think this guy's living such a great life as a personal chef to all these rich people, but there's a bit of a twist
darker-
there. Yeah, a darker
Sorry.
thing. It's
I
kind of
don't know,
silly.
it makes me think of like Saltburn and the Menu a little bit.
Yes, it kind of gets into that menu-esque thing about it. But
It's
I
even
enjoy.
making like kind of like subtle class-based horror. Like they're not like based like like politically based like classist to
Mhm.
politics, but they're like using class in horror a lot more. I think
Yeah.
that probably all comes from. I think we probably have like Jordan Peele to thank for that, where he like used like race and horror in a really great way, and that we're like kind of now getting like class and horror.
Yeah, like Triangle of Sadness came out within the last couple years. It's all that Eat the Rich
Oh yeah.
is the genre I'd say it is in. So it was good. It was interesting. I was glad I watched it. It's a fun little movie.
Cool,
I had
cool.
more fun watching it than The Menu, and a lot of people love The Menu.
I did. I just watched it for the first time like a month ago or so.
Yeah.
I did like it a lot, but you liked that. You like this more than The Menu, huh?
I had more fun watching this than
Oh,
The
okay.
Menu. I don't know if The Menu was as fun as this movie. Like this one just kind of gets to some silly parts, but
Oh, okay, I see. It's more of
yeah,
like a romp. Yeah, there's.
yeah. But yeah, that's all I've got. So good. Well, you could get more information like that. You can see some trailers and things that we're, putting out there and we're excited about by joining our Discord server. So do that. You're always welcome to follow us on Instagram to find out when we're actually going to be doing these things, as there are a lot of vacations. Summer's about to be here and things are about to, get crazy with the scheduling of everything. Again, very fortunate that we were able to do this. Tomorrow, we will be continuing and finally finishing up our theme, White Man No, based on that line from New Girl. Our final movie that we're going to be talking about this month is Mr. Holland's Opus. We're going to be doing that tomorrow at our regularly scheduled time. So do get that in if you haven't seen it. It is on Disney Plus, so check that out.
I've never seen it. I'm going to try to watch it finally. After
Really? Yeah. It is a little bit longer than I remember it being. It's almost closer to like 2.5 hours. But
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I wonder.
Yeah,
I am curious for you to watch it if you've never seen it, because
Yeah, right. Because it was such like it touched like a million heartstrings, like when it came
Yeah.
out. But now it's 2025, and like, am I going to feel that as well? I'm interested in how long it is because I know the premise, and I'm like, but I don't know what happens in it. Like, how long does it take to get through that premise?
Yeah, it'll be interesting talking about it coming off of Nixon too, because it takes place during that same kind of time frame.
Oh, does it really? I didn't
Yeah,
realize it was that old. I thought it was, yeah.
Yeah.
I do
So
have one question. Does Mr. Holland, like, does he show his opus in it?
he
Do
does
you get
show
to see
his
his opus?
You get to see the whole opus too.
Oh my gosh, I'm in.
He goes full opus in
He
this
gets
movie.
full opus in that?
Yeah, so we'll be talking about that tomorrow. And then also this coming Wednesday, our extra credit theme we're talking about called Back to the Future, where all of our films tackle futuristic worlds in the sci-fi genre. We're going to be talking about Tank Girl, Johnny Mnemonic, Judge Dredd, The City of Lost Children, and Virtuosity. So that will
There's
be
a lot of fun movies in there.
Yeah, that'll be on May 28th at 6 p.m. So if you can join us, that'd be great. Anybody.
And also, that's a fun palate cleanser after Nixon and Mr. Holland's Opus to just watch some like real bad like B comedy action and stuff.
Tank. I've seen 2 of the 5. I've got some work to do. But I've watched Tank Girl and Judge Dredd, both movies I'd never seen before, and those were
really
insane.
Yeah, they're crazy.
Those were crazy movies. And also we started I guess we're finishing up our month of dance music and pop music in 52/1995 music. That'll be this coming Tuesday. We're talking about Moby's album. I can't remember what Moby's album is called, but we'll be talking about his 1995 album, which is called Everything Is Wrong. So join us this Tuesday for that. And I think that's it. I think I've got everything done there. So thank you all for tuning in and bearing with us and watching Nixon. I apologize for Nixon. Not my president.
Not my president.
But we'll see you next time on 52/1995.
Bye, guys.